Hi guys, welcome back to Dolores Studios. This time we'll be looking at the BottomBar Composable. So we continue with our Compose basics. We tend to look at all intricacies around Compose, all shortcuts, all different implementations, basic implementations, before we tend to get ourselves hands steady and go deeper into how to use Composable to build a full-fledged application. We'll be talking about the bottom bar. The bottom bar composable function orchestrates the construction of a bottom navigation bar in Jetpack Compose with inputs including a navigation controller, a mutable state, and an optional modifier for styling it, and it kind of assembles a set of navigation items corresponding to different screens in the app. We're kind of used to bottom bar. That's the navigation that sticks at the bottom of our screen. And we get to navigate to different fragment then or act fragments though. But now we're going to be talking about how to integrate or bring this to life in Compose. I'll be going through my files and tell you what we have here. In the screens package, we have the contact, favorite, and the home composables. That serves as the three screens we'll be navigating to at the bottom bar. We have our UI theme as usual, the color, shape, theme, and type. While we have the bar item is just a data class that takes three parameters: the title, string, image as an image vector class, and the route as a string. The navbar items is an object that actually spin off a list of bar items. So it's just a kind of mark data where we have the bar items of three different menu. The first, which is the home with its right icon, icons field from the vector with the route as home. So you set your routes for each one of them. The second is the title with the title contacts, route as contacts. The third with favorites, with route as favorites. That's for your bar items set up that way. And you have the nav route. What's that? Taking a suit class that takes a parameter called routes as a string. Now it passes into each of the objects created, the home, the contact, and the favorites. So it passes your routes to each one of the nav routes. That's what that does. Back to the main activity to bind all those pieces together. We have the bottom bar demo theme. That's the theme we're using presently. So let's get to look at just a little bit about it. It has a dark theme to let you switch from dark to light. And just have a material theme as usual, the color, the typograph, shapes, and the content. So you could tweak on this. You could change your, you could style your project with this. Let's move further. It has a surface that spin off the main screen. The main screen composable set up the remember nav controller so as to be able to navigate back and forth from different composable. With a scaffold, in a scaffold, you could actually work with some functions. We have its enormous. We have the modifier, like scaffold state, the top bar, bottom bar, snack bar host, the floating action button, its position, the button docked drawer content. You could use a drawer, you could use a bottom bar, you could use a floating action button, you could use a top bar, you could even use a scaffold state with a scaffold. So it's a go-to. You have the drawer elevation, the drawer background color, the drawer content color, the screen color, the background color, the content itself. You could pass a composable with a padding values. So these are just available for you to actually set up a scaffold around your component. Now we're going to actually trigger the top app bar, which is the top bar. We set that's the toolbar, as we all know, the toolbar. It gives a text of button navigation demo and the content itself right there. Tie it up to the navigation host with the nav controller, very important. And the bottom bar for the button. You could set a drawer, as we've all read. The bottom navigation bar, composable, will be spin off at that point in time. Now, we're spinning off two of this composable, the navigation host, the bottom navigation bar. Now, let's get to look at the bottom navigation bar. It takes in a parameter of nav controller from the nav host controller. We call the button navigation. We create a backstack entry, and we also get to know the current destination. Now, we're going to iterate through the bar items using the for each. Now, for each of them, we'll spin off the bottom navigation item. We're passing the selected route, if it's current or the nav item route. And on click of each of the menu, what happens? It's going to pop to the nav controller graph and find the start destination with an ID. It sets the state to true at this point in time, and they launch the single top and they restore the state as well. We set the icon of each of these menu and we set the label, that's text and icon. So you could actually use a text alone only or the icon only, anyone that fits you. Now with the navigation host, what's that doing? So this is where you're actually going to set up your navigation controller with the nav host, and you set up each of the composable that you'll be using. So you tie that to the navigation stack, so to say. So we have the first composable, and you pass in. Most time you can pass a nav host to your composable for use, so that because navigation continues, it doesn't stop. The composable could have another navigation to another set of composable. So that's where you spin off from the find nav controller. The order, which is the contents, and the third, which is the favorite. Just spin that off. And you could also pass the nav controller in here. When you pass it here, the home composable will be able to pick it up from also the constructor and get to use the nav controller right inside its composable. So it continues like that, but you need to register each navigation, each composable. You need to register that. We'll be talking deeper into navigation when you properly navigate projects. You set up your nav host and your nav controller. This is quite deep. We'll be touching that when we're dealing with real life example of projects to set up your navigation in Compose. It's slightly different, but it's still coming up with the same logic we all know with your nav host and likes. We have the favorites and also the contents. That's all. From there, you have these showing up to you. That's the home. So this is the home composable. A click on contact gives you the contact composable. So you know, and to the favorites. All these are customizable to fit your designs. Depends on what you really want to do with it. So that's just basics. Bottom bar navigation in Compose. In the next video, we'll talk about other intricacies when it comes to Compose. So don't go anywhere. Thank you very much.